So, in my humble opinion, the default vanilla GNOME desktop environment is kind of awful for new users. Having thrown that out there, I should also make it clear that I myself mostly use GNOME or GNOME-based environments like Cinnamon on my Linux laptop, which you can see here currently running Fedora. Also, many of the current distros featuring GNOME Desktop already add some creature comforts to the default GNOME experience. The ones that don't, that just provide GNOME as it comes, such as Fedora and Arch, surely appear rather foreign to, say, a Windows user, not a particularly newbie-friendly experience. I would say GNOME in general is fairly Mac OS-like in appearance. There is a dock of a sort and a top menu bar, although it's not integrated into the individual application menus like on Mac OS. Clicking the application launcher brings up a Mac-like screen showing all the installed apps. So here's the application launcher. That looks pretty much like a Mac. The one glaring omission in the default GNOME layout that I confess I do not understand is the lack of minimize and maximize buttons on app windows. Now, you can double-click on the top bar to maximize. Let's open up Brave here. You can sort of right-click here and do minimize and bring it back. But it's not intuitive in the slightest, in my opinion. And I really don't know what the UI designers were going for here, other than some kind of austere minimalism. Now, I know you can use keyboard shortcuts with this, but I'm not a keyboard shortcut kind of guy, so it's sort of goofy for me. To me, that's even worse than the Mac's, well, sometimes the red button does this and sometimes it does that schizophrenic behavior. Fortunately, there is an easy, if not immediately obvious, fix for you. You need to use something called GNOME Tweaks. Some distros may have this installed already, but you can install it from the Software Center or Package Manager of your distro, or you can install it from the command line. So here is GNOME Tweaks installed. And you can go to the Windows section here and enable minimize and maximize buttons. You can see they pop up right here. Okay, that's fixed. As I just showed you, once it's installed, it's a matter of a couple of clicks to set up the missing window control buttons, and sanity is restored, well, at least in my opinion. The other thing that bugs me about the default behavior of GNOME is the dock. Mainly, the dock has to be invoked before you can use it by pressing Windows Super key, like that. While I confess this is more of a personal peeve of mine than an actual problem, I usually fix this in one of the following ways. I use either the Dash to Dock or Dash to Panel extensions. Dash to Dock provides a Mac-like dock which sits at the bottom of your screen and can be configured in various ways. Dash to Panel gives a more Windows-like taskbar appearance, with the Start button being replaced by the app launcher. Again, this extension is quite customizable. The most straightforward way to handle these sorts of extension is to install Extension Manager, which I can show you here. This guy right here. Extension Manager is a more useful version of the GNOME Extensions app. You can search for extensions, install and manage them all from the Extensions Manager. So you can see I have Dash to Dock animated and Dash to Panel installed here. So if I do Dash to Dock, you'll see we get the dock down here like a Mac. You can launch various things. If I do Dash to Panel, you get a more Windows-like dock down here. The last thing that bugs me and possibly others, I'm going to put it back to Dash to Dock here for a second, just so I know what's going on. There we go. There are a couple of other things like not being able to put folders on the desktop, but that's a sort of a minor thing. The last main thing that bugs me and possibly others about the default GNOME behavior is that it does not display the activity of background apps. Specifically, in my case, I use a cloud storage service, and while the cloud drive shows up properly in the file manager, I can't see the app's icon to monitor if it's syncing at any given time. Another extension comes to the rescue here. This one is App Indicator and K Status Notifier Item Support. It's a big mouthful, but there it is right there. And if I activate it, you'll notice that in the top bar here, you'll see an icon for pCloud. That's it right there. So I can go to my cloud app from there, bring up my actual cloud drive, or right-click, get various information. And it also gives me a graphical indication of what the drive is doing. If it's syncing, for example, it'll show a symbol in there. And I like that. I do find that I need to have that. So while it's nice that people have stepped up to produce these helpful and useful extensions, they can sometimes break when Gnome is updated, and then it's a bit of a scramble to get them updated to accommodate the new environment. So, having complained and moaned through this video, I still do use Gnome or a derivative more often than not for my daily driver. For my use case, which is honestly just general farting around and making YouTube videos like this one, it's honestly, reliable and simple enough for me I don't feel like I have to move to KDE or something else. Anyway, that's why I think Gnome is not very user-friendly for newbies. So that's another video in the can. If you found this informative or interesting, please consider liking and subscribing down below. And remember, be excellent to each other.